Hi guys, it's Chill, hope you are all having a great day. This is What If Naruto Came to Fight Gaia, hope you all enjoy. The 40th Great Shinobi War had ended only a couple weeks ago, with Naruto finally able to seal Madara and Kaguya away into the Ghetto Maju. But where peace reigns supreme in the elemental nations, a dark force stirs due to the defeat of Kaguya in a whole other dimension. Mount Olympus War Room. A brown-haired man strokes his beard and says, "The Titanomachy has just ended, and we already have another prophecy. This is rather troubling." A large-built man walks through the doors of the war room and says, "Zeus, we have an affirmative, Gaia is waking." Upon hearing that name, the now-named Zeus walks nervously and says, "Perhaps it is due to our interference with Typhon in the Titanomachy. I hereby order disconnection between any and all contact between us and our children upon further notice. The only exception is the right of claiming. Those who go against my orders will be punished accordingly." A beautiful woman walks to Zeus and whispers something into his ears, causing his eyes to widen slightly. Zeus responds by saying, "I grant your request to bringing him here. He may prove useful in the coming days. But, I forbid you from interfering with our Greek and Roman children. I do not wish to see our children at each other's throats again here. In order to bring him here, one of us must alter his genes and claim him. I have already sworn not to bear children along with my brothers. I will leave the decision to you all. If you can't come to an agreement, I give my wife the power to intervene and decide for you." With that, Zeus leaves the room to allow the other gods to fight over the next hero. Naruto's new apartment. After the war, Naruto returned to find his old apartment completely destroyed, forcing him to move into a much more spacious apartment. Naruto wakes up from a good dream. He had dreamt of the end of the war. Ino had confessed to having a crush on him since the academy, much to Hinata's fury. In the end, Naruto denied both of them. He couldn't choose to feel more for another of his friends, and he didn't want things to be weird with them afterwards. He had said he was willing to give them both a chance by going out with the both of them separately, of course, and see where it goes from there. But what Naruto wasn't expecting was to enter his mindscape to meet all 9 Baiju along with an extra human-sized figure. The figure was eyed suspiciously by the 10 inhabitants of the mind and whistled, "Wow, how you manage to keep from getting a massive headache from 9 different beings is beyond me. Me and the others usually struggle with too." Naruto stepped towards him and asked, "Who are you? Why did you bring us here? More importantly, how did you get here?" The figure giggled and stepped out of the shadows to reveal a beautiful woman in a white toga. The woman smiled at Naruto and said, "I am Hestia, goddess of the hearth." Naruto narrowed his eyes and asked questioningly, "Another god? You're not going to kill me, steal my friends and do God knows what with them, are you?" Naruto flared his chakra while the 9 Baiju followed their container. Hestia smiled and shook her head and said, "I'm here to ask for your help. You see, from where I'm from, there are multiple types of immortal beings, but the most dangerous would be the primordial gods, the Titans, the giants, and us, the normal gods who inherited the world from the Titans after my family's rebellion. The defeat of this world's goddess Kaguya may hold a factor in waking the primordial god, and our ancestor, Gaia, goddess of the earth. My queen chose me to come and offer you a chance to come to my world to help us deal with our problem. You are one of the few who have managed to defeat an immortal." Hearing the goddess's explanation, Naruto turns to the 9 Baiju and asks, "Think we can trust her?" Kurama spoke up saying, "I believe we can. She feels different than Kaguya, calmer, more gentle and welcoming, but at the same time incredibly powerful. She is definitely not human. If she wanted to kill you and take us, then I have little doubt she could do it." Naruto sighed at the explanation and watched the other Baijuya nod their head in agreement. Naruto turned back to Hestia and said, "I'll do it, but what exactly do I have to do?" Hestia began to explain how she would have to change his genes to the point he is related to her. Naruto looked at her and said, "No offense, but I'm happy with who my parents are. I'm not sure I would honor them very well if I suddenly lost my mother's genes." Hestia smiled at him and said, "That's the good news. I've looked into your genes and you already share many of my personality traits. All I would really have to do is supercharge your mother's genes, thus making you half mortal, half god, and you would be able to survive the experience." Naruto couldn't help but ask, "So you're saying that if I don't become half god then there is a chance I would die going to your world?" Putting it out more like a statement instead of a question. Hestia nods and says, "We need to get moving soon. If time is similar in my world then the best time to get you into the Roman Legion is in a couple minutes. Write a note or something and say your goodbyes." Naruto crossed his fingers and said, "Multi-shadow clone jutsu." Naruto sent the clones away to let his friends know and walked up to Hestia. Naruto nodded and said, "I'm ready to go too." Power filled the room, followed by a flash of light and then darkness. New Rome Senate. A scrawny teen dressed in a purple shirt, legionnaire armor, and jeans came running into the large open room screaming, "Praetor Reyna!" Praetor Jackson was just reported missing. All in the room stood with slight concern while the praetor asked, "What happened, Mike?" Mike tried desperately to catch his breath and said in between pants, "Jackson was last seen asleep in the barracks until he vanished into a flash of light." Mike continued to pant heavily while Reyna looked utterly afraid before saying, "Gather the legion. If a praetor goes missing then there must be something going on. Send out massive search parties. If this is a matter pertaining to demigods then the culprits couldn't have gotten very far." At that moment a large clap of thunder shook the Senate. All of New Rome felt the tremors. The group of officials looked through the glass in the ceiling and saw a large black hole opening in the sky. Lightning cracked while the winds roared before a yellow glow appeared in the center of the black hole. The light grew seemingly brighter and larger before the praetor's eyes widen and shouts, "Get down!" Everyone in the room hits the floor while a crash is heard and an earth-shattering boom followed by a cloud of smoke in the center of the room. Everyone looked up and saw the hole was gone. Looking into the hole that took up a major portion of the room, Reyna rushed forward to an unconscious blonde-haired teen. Checking his pulse, she orders a centurion to take him to the infirmary due to his injuries. Looking at the carnage of papers, shattered glass and the 15-foot crater now decorating the Senate, Reyna feels that whatever transpired tonight was no mere coincidence. The next morning, Naruto wakes up with a groan, feeling like he just got hit with the 10-tailed Baiju Udama. Again. Feeling the comfort of a bed, Naruto hears whispers while struggling to sit up. Suddenly pain flared in his head but quickly vanished due to the Baiju chakra from his 9 partners. Naruto tries to look around the room but is met with incredible blurriness clouding his vision. After blinking several times to get rid of the clouds and sees he is in a bed surrounded by oddly dressed people looking at him. Naruto rubs his head and tries to stand up but is stopped by a rather pretty girl with hazel eyes and light brown hair. The girl pushes him down gently but Naruto resists, slightly panicking, looking around the room, unsure of where he is and who these people are. The girl looks him in the eyes and says, "Calm down. Lay back and let us ask you something questions." Naruto wanted to panic but found the sight of the hazel eyes surprisingly calming, so Naruto props himself up on the backboard and asks, "Where am I?" The group of individuals looks at each other before looking back at the blonde while a shorter dark-skinned girl stepped forward and said, You're in New Rome, Roman city of demigods, and seeing as you've passed the barrier you must be part immortal or a monster. Naruto looked at her and said, "Can you refrain from using the word monster around me please? It brings back some very uncomfortable memories." The girl nods and looks back to Reyna, who in turn asks, "What is the last thing you remember?" Naruto pinches his chin in thought and said, "I was in my apartment when someone claiming to be a god appeared with a flash in my room, says her name is Hestia, explains something about Gaia rising or something, also about sending me to her world or something, next thing I know I'm here." The group looks at Naruto like he grew a second head until Reyna asks, "Hestia? She is the Greek counterpart to Vesta. I'm not sure what to think about you claiming to be another world, but that black hole you came out of last night was something I haven't seen before, and with the gods one can't be certain of anything." Well, since his best friends are giant talking toads, he could imagine weirder things happening. Naruto looks at Reyna and says, "My name is Naruto, Naruto Uzumaki, Jinchuriki of the 9 Baijua." The group looks at him questioningly and Reyna asks, "Baijua, Jinchuriki? I am not familiar with those words." Naruto looks at her bewildered, and suddenly the idea of him being in another world seemed to become easier to believe. Naruto says, "Baijua, as in great-tailed beast, where I'm from there are 9 of them in all, each with a set number of tails, ranging from 1 to 9. The greater the number of tails the stronger the Baijua, the strongest being Kurama, my partner and the self-proclaimed, the great Kyuubi no Kitsune. 9-tailed demon fox. I won't lie when I say the guy is an egomaniac." Just then Naruto's eyes narrowed, catching everyone by surprise when he shouts to no one in particular, "Oh, quiet down Kurama, you know it's true, everyone else would agree with me, right Ato?" Naruto begins to sulk, whispering something about unsupportive Baijua. Reyna is a little shocked at the display of facial change and asks, Naruto, are you all right?" Some of the group start whispering about him being crazy, which catches his ear, causing him to say, "You know, if you're going to talk behind my back I'll just let you talk to the egomaniac. Fair warning, Kurama has a sadistic sense of humor, my eyes will glow crimson and slit. Don't freak out or call him a monster, he's sensitive about it." Again the group looks at him like he's crazy while his eyes are shut. Moments later his eyes open, revealing exactly what he described. Upon seeing the looks on their faces, Kurama laughs demonically while his eyes water, causing their eyes to widen further from the change in his voice. Kurama chuckles again and says, "Greetings mortals, you are in the presence of the great Kyuubi no Kitsune. Bow down to my awesomeness." Ha 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 ha. A few of the members of the group run out of the room screaming monster at the top of their lungs, causing Kurama to sulk in the corner, switching back with Naruto, who gets up and glares at them. Naruto's glare increases as he says, "I told you not to us the word monster around Kurama, now he's gonna be sulking all day." Reyna finally recovers and gives a quick apology before saying, "We just don't have knowledge of this, but that reminds me, you explained what a Baijua is but not a Jinchuriki." Naruto corrects her saying, "Not Jinchuriki, Jinchuriki, it means the power of the human sacrifice. You see, there are certain people chosen to carry a demon since an early age. I had Kurama since the day I was born. The reason the word monster is taboo to us is because Jinchuriki are treated like the demons they carry. I was denied my own existence up until a couple months ago, always putting up with hate-filled flares, beatings on a daily basis, insults, scrutiny, heck, I was kicked out of the orphanage at the age of 5, been on my own ever since." The story made those that listened want to cry, all but one shorter kid with a staff who asked, "Why exactly were these Baijua placed inside of people?" Naruto answered the question with a cautious glare towards the kid. The Baijua were incredibly powerful creatures made of pure energy. My partner Kurama could level a mountain with a single swipe of one of his 9 tails, so the founder of the sealing technique used to seal Baijua sealed them in people to keep them as weapons or just for security purposes. The shorter kid gained a smile grin before it vanished as quick as it appeared, but it did draw Naruto's attention. Naruto commented to him saying, "Don't even think of it, shorty. If one Baijua is enough to blow up a mountain without trying, imagine 9 of them with a single person able to access their full power. By the way, when all Baijua are brought together, then they gain the power of a god, respectfully a god of pure destruction." The kid grumbled something under his breath but said, "You can't blame me for wanting to use them. If they are as powerful as you say, then why don't you demonstrate?" Everyone looked at him for a response and found his eyes harden when he said, "If you don't mind me blowing up your home, then I'll be more than happy to. But unless you have a mountain you want moved, I'm afraid I won't help you. Besides, it takes a seal master to seal even one Baijua, and it takes the Baiju's full cooperation in order to access their power, and they don't like people like you, shorty. You remind them of a bastard snake back home." The teen walked out of the room gritting his teeth. Reyna turns back to Naruto and says, "I never introduced myself. My name is Reyna, leader of the Roman Legion. We can finish talking about the Baijua later. Right now they don't seem like a threat, but if it's true what you said about Gaia rising, then we must prepare. And if the gods sent you, then there must be a reason for it." Naruto, getting a good look in Reyna's eyes, sees something that he is familiar with. He will have to get her to talk about it later, but for now, my theory for them bringing me here may be connected to my fight against Kaguya. She was incredibly powerful, easily rivaling the power I felt come off of Hestia. I managed to defeat her, so I guess you could say I'm as close to being able to defeat a god as you can get. Most looked at Naruto like he was crazy. A broad-chested man with a scar over his eye stepped forward and said, "You defeat a god? Ha, now I know you're making this up." Naruto didn't so much as blink at the comment until he said, "Who's to say? I'm sure stranger things have happened. From what I've been told, I'm a prime example, falling from the sky like a meteorite, crashing down in a crater and surviving with minimal physical trauma." The man stepped back and grumbled. Reyna again speaks, "I'm surprised Terminus hasn't kicked you out of the city yet. From what you've told us, which either you're too trusting or incredibly stupid, you seem to be a living weapon." Naruto frowns and says, "I used to hide my status, but after the war, I grew proud of my status. I finally earned the recognition of my village, and now I'm here, again to stop something. If I truly am here to help, then I will end whatever is coming and go back home." Reyna smiled at him and said, "We would be honored to fight with you." An older man stepped forward and said, "I find it hard to trust him. We must discuss this with the rest of the council." Reyna gave a nod and said, "Until then, I'll have him under observation by the 5th cohort." The man nodded and walked out to summon the other counselors. Reyna turned to the dark-skinned girl and said, "Take Naruto to the barracks and get him situated. Keep him comfortable until we come to a conclusion." The girl saluted and walked Naruto out the door after letting Naruto get dressed. The two walked for a while. The girl smiled seeing Naruto's eyes light up looking at New Rome. She comments, "You know, New Rome was modeled after the original, but was designed to fit modern times, but we still mix our culture to make it feel more like home." Naruto smiles and says, "I haven't seen anything like this place. I mean, I've traveled quite a bit, but I've never seen a place this nice before. If I ever get home, I gotta get Ba-chan to remodel the village. It is nice, but this place blows it out of the water." The girl giggled and said, "I never introduced myself. My name is Hazel, Hazel Levesque." Naruto smiled at her and said, "It's nice to meet you, Hazel." Hazel looked back at him and said, "So tell me about your home." Naruto's eyes lit up and started talking. "The name of my village is called Konohigakyo no Sato, or the village hidden in leaves. My favorite place in the village beside the Ishiraku ramen stand is the Hokage monument." Hazel looks at him confused and asks, "What's a Hokage?" Naruto looks at her and says, "It means fire shadow. He's the leader of the village and the strongest ninja in the country. Our continent was split into many different countries, but the main countries were Konohigakyo, Kirigakyo, Tsunegakyo, Kumogakyo, and Iwagakyo. But the land that the villages rest on belong to the daimyo, or the government leader of the country. The nations are split into 5 elements: fire, earth, wind, water, and lightning. Each village is ruled by a Kage. The Kage is the military leaders and main foundation that keeps a hidden village stabilized, while the daimyo supplies their money and support. It's the Kage's job to maintain the village and keep its people safe. I had wanted to be the Hokage when I grew up, but after my time as a shinobi, I grew wiser and eventually found another reason to want to become Hokage." Naruto's eyes start to water thinking of his friends. Hazel managed to understand most of what Naruto was saying, but before questions were asked, Hazel noticed they arrived at the 5th cohort's barracks. Smiling at him, Hazel said, "We're here." The two walked in and they were immediately bombarded with questions and people wanting to know about Naruto. Naruto jumps and hangs from the ceiling from surprise, which causes everyone to gawk at him. Naruto looks down at them glaring and says, "Don't do that. If I hadn't known you weren't hostile, I could have killed you." Hazel voices everyone's question, "How are you doing that?" Naruto looks at her questioningly and says, "Doing what?" Everyone looks at him incredulously and says, "Standing on the ceiling." Naruto looks towards the ceiling and then looks back. "Everyone can do this where I'm from. It's actually the basics of the basics, it's control exercise." Everyone just continued to gawk until Naruto grew a mischievous grin. Naruto performed a few quick hand seals and shouted, "Sexy jutsu." Where used to be a blonde teen guy now stood a blonde females revealing everything but what's hidden behind clouds. The majority of the male population was knocked unconscious from a massive nosebleed while the females blushed deeply. The blonde teen was replaced in a poof of smoke with Naruto, who fell to the ground laughing and rolling on the floor holding his gut. The females glared at him with crimson blushes and asked, "What the hell was that?" Naruto continued to snicker but said, "The perfect way to incapacitate any and every guy. So far I haven't found a person able to resist its power." Naruto gloated while the girls grew massive tick marks and approached the blonde menacingly. Upon his feeling like he was in danger, he looked to the girls and immediately paled. The girls were walking towards him slowly, but their killing intent was rolling off them in waves while Naruto was sweating bullets. Naruto tried to defend himself saying, Now girls, I didn't mean anything by it, it was just to snap you out of your shock." Naruto was now terrified. He started crawling backwards away from the advancing party, stuttering, I can show you something cool." The girls didn't stop coming. They had officially wanted to maim the blonde. Naruto began praying any god that would listen, blubbering. Then the girls pounced on him. The last thing anyone heard that day from him was an ear-wrenching scream of pure agony. The next day, Naruto woke up and immediately jumped back seeing Hazel and started begging. Hazel burst out laughing until it slowed to a snicker and said, "I think you've been hurt enough. Besides, we remember something you said before we knocked you out about showing us something." Naruto beamed and said, "If you want to see, then I need a large open space you guys don't mind me decimating." Hazel had a thoughtful look and finally nodded, saying, I'll talk to Reyna. For the meantime, head to the dining pavilion and get something to eat. Before Naruto could say he didn't know where it was, she was gone. Naruto huffed and decided to bring out his emergency ramen and started eating. When Naruto finished, he went to find a quiet place to meditate. He enjoyed meditating in the morning, all was calmer and more peaceful. He found a place on top of a hill with a rather large pond. He sat in front of the pond lotus position, and started gathering nature energy. But it was different, more tainted, harder to control. It almost hurt to take it in, but after a while he opened his eyes to see himself surrounded by half-donkey half-human hybrids and girls in dresses. Some were cuddling him, which he found weird. Naruto looked down and found one girl with her head in his lap. Naruto commented on the scene around him, saying, what's going on? The girl lying in his lap jumped up with a blush and ran into the crowd. One stepped up and asked, what were you doing? We felt a pull come from here and found ourselves unable to resist. Naruto was completely confused, until he saw another of the girls walked out of a tree and asked, what are you guys? They looked at him confused until one stepped up and said, we are Nyds, or nature spirits. Naruto nodded his head in understanding and said, I was trying to relax and absorb the natural energy in nature. That may be what you felt. I'm a sage, or that's my official title where I'm from. The crowd opened up and revealed Reyna, who walked up to Naruto and said, official title. What are the abilities that come with it? Naruto thought for a moment and said, well, I can feel the energy course through every living thing, and I can spread my senses over a wide range around me, as well as increased speed and strength. I can also use the energy to enhance my own natural abilities. It also allows me to feel the intentions of people within range of my senses. Reyna looked at him calculatingly and whistled. 2 automaton dogs walked to Reyna's side and sat. Reyna said, these are my pets, they can sense a lie. Is everything you said about your world, the gods, and your abilities true? Naruto answered immediately with no fear of the dogs, yes, everything I have said up till now has been true. The natural energy in this world, it's different, I felt it tainted, but something else, it feels angry, upset, alone even. I can't help but feel angry towards you for some reason, it's something I haven't felt before. At the end of his statement, Naruto hears a feminine laughter in his head, and he suddenly feels dizzy. Naruto passes out while in sage mode. Naruto finds himself in a deep forest facing a mountainside. But what's weird is the mountainside is shifting, it seems to be the rocky face of a woman. The woman looks down at him and smiles. The woman opens her mouth and says, hello Naruto. Naruto is instantly on high alert while he says, how do you know my name? Who are you? The woman smiles and says, I'm sure you've heard of me, you've described me a little while ago. Naruto narrowed his eyes and said, Gaia. The woman's smile grew and said, very good, I felt you use my power and I grew interested in your abilities, so I dug into your memories and I seen everything. Naruto snarled at Gaia and said, you had no right to enter my mind. Gaia frowned and said, I could say the same for you standing on my domain. But I seem to be drawn to you, you must feel my pain considering your childhood. All alone, hated by everyone for something you couldn't control. And now the gods curse you again to fight their own war. It's simply too much to ask of a child. I may have bred my children to fight the gods, but even I care more for my own children than they obviously care for you. Naruto frowned and said, you have a point. Gaia smiled, but it was dropped when he said, but this does concern me, I was part of the reason you are even here, or so I'm told, so it's my responsibility to clean up the mess. Gaia couldn't help but grin at Naruto and say, "You certainly are mature for your age, but the reason I am angry is because I gave the earth to my firstborn, the Titans, and then they were sent to Tartarus. The gods hurt my children and so I am simply playing my role as a mother. The gods must pay for hurting them, and poisoning me." Naruto looks at her questioningly and asks, "Is that why it hurt to absorb your natural energy?" Gaia nodded sadly and said, "The mortals have constructed machines that burn my life force, and take my body to use as construction material. It has been going on for millennia." Naruto couldn't help but feel pity for the goddess. All she wants is to stop feeling pain, and in truth, the gods did strike first against the Titans, and in turn fueled their mother's wrath. It is the nature of a mother to protect her own. Naruto sighed before saying, "I would be lying if I said I didn't feel sorry for you. But I know anything about a war with a god, it wouldn't just be the gods that suffer, it would be both demigods and mortals. And waging a war that will involuntarily harm innocent lives is something I have sworn to prevent." Gaia scowled but said, "You know the cruelty of mortals, and have seen the evil of gods. I simply wish to wipe the world clean, to start over and give the earth back to my children." Naruto returned the scowl while saying, "By killing those who were not responsible for your pain, I'm not sure about this world but I'm sure that the people here today weren't even alive back then in order to interfere with you and your children. If it were against just the gods and there was a way to avoid major casualties then I wouldn't interfere, but I'm afraid that if I caused this mess, I must be a part of stopping it." Gaia scowled but then sighed and said, "I will awake, I will rise again, and I want you to join me, I will return for you." The world faded from Naruto's eyes, faded into darkness. 5th Cohort Barracks. Naruto awoke with a gasp and sat up choking. Naruto felt a comforting hand on his back and turned to stare at Reyna who wore a worried look towards him. Naruto sighed after his coughing fit and propped himself up. Naruto looked to Reyna and said, "Thanks." Reyna smiled and said, "Not a problem, now would you like to explain why you passed out? The nymphs were worried sick about you, you paled one second then you're lying unconscious and unresponsive the next." Naruto looked at her with seriousness and told her about his meeting with Gaia. As the conversation went on, Reyna's face became more and more concerned. At the end Reyna asked, "Are you sure? If this is what she said then this is troubling and must be reported to the council." Naruto nodded his head and said, "I'm sure, but is it true? Did the gods really hurt their own parents?" Reyna looked at him and said, "It's much more complicated than a simple who attacked who." Reyna went into description in how Kronos ate his children in order to keep the throne for himself, followed by how Zeus tricked Kronos and freed his siblings. Naruto nodded in understanding and said, "That explains it, no father should harm their child, let alone eat them." Reyna looked conflicted but nodded her head in agreement and said, "The council is contemplating your worth, if they decide to accept you, which I find unlikely now that Gaia is coming for you. You will be placed under a commanding officer and proceed to train under them to acquire our skills in combat." Naruto shook his head and said, "With all due respect, I already train myself into the ground, and judging from what I've seen in the training fields on the way to the mountain, I'm much further ahead, but I will respect your decision to put me under someone else's command." Reyna scowled, not used to having her legion insulted. She says, "Without a demonstration of your skills it can't be helped. Unless you would like to spare with me, I could judge your skills based on how well you defend against me." Naruto chuckled and said, "You misunderstand, I wasn't referring to the new guys." Naruto vanished and reappeared behind Reyna holding a bronze dagger to Reyna's throat before Naruto finished, I was trained by the strongest shinobi in the elemental nations. I don't brag often, but if you placed me in a fight against the best in your military, I would most likely win. Reyna paled when she felt the dagger against her neck, but it got worse when Naruto vanished without being seen. Naruto pulled away from Reyna and handed her back her dagger she carried. Reyna looked dumbfounded when she asked, "How did you move so fast?" Naruto chuckled and said, "I was trained by the best in the shinobi world. When you have a demon trapped in your stomach, you must be strong in order to ignore temptation." Breaking free from her daze, Reyna looks at Naruto and says, "I want to see your skills in battle. I will set up a match for you in the arena. Just like you said, you will fight 20 of the best in the Legion. If you win, you won't have to train under a commanding officer, but you will still take orders from them until I see fit to promote you." Naruto nods before walking away, before turning and saying, "You know, living hell myself, I learned not to show my pain. You seem to be a master at it. I'm not going to pry, but if you ever need to talk, I'll be training." Reyna's eyes widen at how fast he was able to read her, but before she could retort, he was already gone. Reyna sighed before walking out of the room and shutting the door behind her. Secluded field, outside New Rome. Naruto was working on a new technique he was beginning to develop before he heard the snap of a twig and turned to see the short teen from the infirmary smiling at him. Naruto glared at him and said, "I don't know what you want, nor do I care to, but if you're here for my friends, then I suggest you think again." The teen bowed and said, "I haven't introduced myself. I'm Octavian, and I..." Octavian was interrupted by Naruto saying, "I don't care. I've felt your true intentions and you're looking more and more like an old war hawk that tried to kill me and take my friend. So if you know what's good for you, you will leave me and my friends alone." Octavian scowled but left without a retort. Moments later another snap was heard, causing Naruto to scowl and turn. Naruto was happy to see Reyna walk out. Reyna walked up to Naruto and asks, "What did you mean about Octavian's intentions?" Naruto sighed and said, "Octavian has a mountain of hatred towards you. He hides it rather well, but you can't hide the way your energy moves and spikes when something happens or someone you have feelings for is near, be those feelings good or bad. Your intentions are pride in the Legion. I can also sense, regret, betrayal, and a small amount of love. I've noticed it whenever you hear the name Jason Grace." Reyna couldn't speak, he read her like a book. It can't be denied that his ability to sense emotion is incredibly powerful. Naruto noticed the way Reyna stiffened as he read her intentions. Naruto could say he felt a sense of kinship. Naruto sighed before saying, "It's all right, Reyna, your secret is safe. I'm not one for gossip. Besides, the way you feel means you haven't told him yet. I understand how it feels to want something you know you can't have. It hurts. We all have our way of coping with heartache. Mine is training into the ground. If you want, you could join me sometime." Naruto smiled at Reyna, who just looked at him shocked he could read her so easily, but shook the thought and said, "I'd like that." It had been only 3 weeks since Reyna found Naruto in the clearing chewing out Octavian. She would be lying if she said it wasn't funny to see Octavian march off silently cursing the blonde. During the 3 weeks Naruto had been preparing for his fight against his competitors. Even though he says he doesn't need to prepare, he admits that it would be stupid for him to underestimate his opponent, so decided to do odd jobs in his spare time to have a custom weapon made by the Vulcan Forge Master. He had created several clones to wander around asking people if they needed anyone for odd jobs, much to the surprise of everyone when 2 of the blonde had been seen in the same place. Reyna had wanted to learn the clone technique when she heard of the ability to give the experience the clone had gained to its creator. But when Naruto had tried to tell her she would be unable to due to the possibility of death from chakra exhaustion due to her less than civilian level chakra, Naruto had called it. Reyna had attempted to try to master the chakra that was in her body, but soon found that it was a hopeless effort due to her chakra coils needing to be developed at an early age. Reyna still trained with Naruto daily but gave up learning his techniques. The two were now lying on the ground panting from Naruto's crazy workouts until Naruto stood up and offered Reyna a hand and asked, "You wanna get something to eat? I'll buy." Reyna took his hand and asked, "Are you asking me on a date?" Naruto's face flushed and looked away saying, "I just wanted to know if you wanted some free food. Not that you're not desirable. I mean I don't want you. I mean, go." Naruto grips his hair in frustration while Reyna turns her head with an almost unnoticeable pink to her cheeks which Naruto missed somehow. But Reyna looked back at the blonde when she had her flush under control and said, "Sure, I know a great restaurant in the heart of the city. Their food is the best in the city." Naruto paled as he heard his wallet screaming but was happy she accepted. Girls didn't usually react well when Naruto asked them out, so he was pleasantly surprised when she said yes. Naruto had told her he would meet her at the fountain after he took a quick shower. Reyna nodded with a small smile on her face and decided to get a shower herself and look a little more presentable. Naruto had rushed to the barracks of the 5th cohort, threw himself into the shower, got clean and headed to his dresser. Naruto pulled out lots of orange jumpsuits with black lining the zipper but none were dinner material, so he pulled out a scroll he had gotten from Tsunade before he left. She had said that it was something his father had made for him before he was born, so Naruto was curious. He channeled chakra into the seal that was present, and a completely new outfit spoofed into smoke, not even paying attention to the details. He dressed himself quickly and stood in front of a tall mirror to admire himself. There standing in front of the mirror was Naruto dressed in black sandals, ankle-length black anbu pants, a white shirt, wearing a long white cloak with orange flames running from the bend of the knee to the end of the cloak which faded to black, along with black fingerless gloves. Happy with his new attire, Naruto raced off to meet Reyna at the fountain. Upon arriving, Naruto stared slack-jawed at Reyna wearing long blue jeans that hugged her waist and legs, while wearing a white t-shirt with her SPOR tattoo visible on her right forearm. Reyna finally took notice of Naruto in his new attire and found a dust of pink to her face, which again, Naruto took no notice. But Reyna easily caught Naruto staring, which caused her blush to deepen ever so slightly, which got worse as she walked towards him. Naruto finally broke out of his stupor and blushed deeply, which didn't go unnoticed. Naruto looked back to her when he regained control of his blush and asked, "Are you ready to go? You don't have to come if you don't want to." Naruto looked away sadly when he notices her seriously contemplating it but releases a breath he didn't realize he was holding when she said, "It's a good thing I want to go then." Reyna gave a small smile as she walked next to him and said, "The restaurant is over here." Naruto followed after her and could swore he heard his wallet sigh with relief seeing it's not an overly priced restaurant. The two walk inside getting looks Reyna's way while everyone ignored Naruto. Reyna took a seat in front of Naruto while they waited for their waiter. Ironic, isn't it? The two ordered their meals, which consisted of a cheeseburger, or so Naruto thought they were called, and French fries. Naruto of course ordered ramen. The two ate their meals before Naruto sighed and said, "Sorry, I'm not all that used to being out like this with just a girl. Bring one of my teammates along and it's easy, but I..." Naruto was cut off by a giggle which truly shocked him when he saw it come from Reyna. The girls who locked any and all emotion was showing amusement at Naruto to look at her questioningly, in which she replied, "We're kinda in the same boat, as you discovered the first couple of days, I had feelings for my fellow Pretor, but before I was given the opportunity to act on them, he vanished. And was replaced by you. Naruto looked at her sadly and said, I'm sorry you didn't get to act on your feelings. When I had a crush on my teammate, before we actually became a team, I had been too scared to ask her out, but when we finally became a team, I discovered it was too late. She had already fell in love with someone else. Reyna could feel he was in pain, but it slowly disappeared and was replaced with a smile as he said, but it's okay, I may not have anyone waiting for me to come home, but I still have friends who care. I do miss them, but if this is a mess I helped make, then I'll be damned if it's forced into someone else. Reyna smiled and said, I know exactly how you feel. When I first joined the Legion, I was a wreck. I always screwed up my job around town, but then Jason came along. He helped me get over what happened before I came here. It was only when I joined Jason as a fellow Pretor that I acknowledged my feelings towards him, but I was scared of rejection. Naruto had a sad smile while he said, it's only normal. My reasons were because of what everyone said about me. No one cared. I was all alone up until I graduated the academy at 13. Take some advice. When he gets back, make sure the first thing you do is tell him how you feel. You never know when someone will come along and takes the person you care so much for. Reyna looked at Naruto, stunned at his words before saying, you're right. Thank you Naruto, it's nice having a friend who understands to talk to. Naruto smiles warmly at her and says, it's not a problem, I just hope I was able to help. Reyna returned the smile before allowing themselves to finish their meals and say their goodbyes. It was easy to tell Naruto enjoyed dinner with Reyna. He wore a bright smile that caused the male populace to glare jealously at him while the women winked, giggled, and smiled towards him. Naruto made his way back towards the barracks but was intercepted by a dark-skinned girl he easily recognized saying, "What's up Hazel?" Hazel had a glimmer in her eye as she asked, "So? How did it go?" Naruto looked at her honestly confused as she asks almost urgently, "The date? The date, damn it. How was the date with Reyna?" Naruto blushed and said, "It wasn't a date. I just treated her to a meal after training." Hazel's eyes gleamed when he said that, so she asked, "So you aren't taken yet?" "Awesome. That means I still have a chance. Now get over here." Naruto pales as his friend leans in to kiss him, causing him to freak out and leap back with her crawling towards him, chasing him out the door after getting up. The blonde slept outside and in the tallest tree he could find hinged and a bird. Naruto awoke the next morning and looked around for Hazel before jumping down and walking away. Before he got too far though, he was tackled, and before he could do anything he felt hot breath on his face looking up at Hazel, who said, "Tag, you're it." Hazel leaned down to kiss him but stopped abruptly and started laughing at Naruto's face, causing his eyes to widen in realization, saying, You pranked me." Hazel nodded her head before bursting out laughing, again causing Naruto to gain a smirk as he walked up to the laughing girl. He picked her up and leaned her against a tree, causing her to stop laughing and turn to Naruto questioningly before Naruto leaned in and said in a charming and disappointed voice, "Too bad it was a prank. I started to enjoy myself, might as well make it real though since we're here." Seeing where this was headed, Hazel tried to protest but found it hard when he started to breath on her neck, which made her tingle and almost lean into him. His warm breath moved up to her ear before saying, "Are you sure it was a prank? You seem to be enjoying yourself a little too much for it to be a joke." Naruto leaned closer to her ear and whispered, "It was a good one too, but you forgot one thing." Naruto leaned back, letting his words to sink in. Hearing this, Hazel looked at him questioningly and asked while stuttering, "What?" Naruto smiled and leaned his forehead against hers, making her look up into his clear blue eyes and made her want to kiss him before he said, "I'm a ninja. Deception and misdirection are in my job description." Naruto moved away and laughing at Hazel's stunned face before she pointed an accusing finger before screaming, "You cheated. I had already won." Naruto smiled and said, "The game isn't over until one side admits defeat. I just turned the tables into my favor. That's what you get for pranking Konoha's #1 most unpredictable knuckle-headed ninja." Naruto yelled the last part and pointed his thumb at himself with pride in his title. Hazel giggled at her friend's antics, their dispute quickly forgotten. Hazel looked at him and asked, "So are you going to participate in the war games? They're coming up and everyone is getting ready. If you're going to participate, you need to go to the war games drafting office to fill out a participant form." Naruto nodded and said, "It would be a decent workout, but I'm not sure if it's a good idea. I don't really want to talk about it." Hazel looked at him questioningly but nodded and said, "That's fine. But if you are ever approached by an officer for the war games about being offered entrance, I suggest you take it. It's a big honor for one to offer you entrance without going through the pile of paperwork." Naruto nodded, waved and said, "I'll see you around, Hazel. I need to go pick up my order at the forge, so I'll be ready for my battle in the arena." Hazel said, "See ya," turned around and walked away. Naruto had been walking down the road hearing people whisper about his upcoming battle. Women were giggling and waving at him while men glared at him full of disdain before he walked into the forge and waved to his friend and said, "Hey Mark, how you doing?" Mark turned at his smiling friend with a smile of his own and said, "I'm doing okay, but I guess you're here for your custom sword." Naruto shrugged and said, "Can't a guy drop in to say hi to a friend? The sword is just a bonus." Mark chuckled and said, "Yeah, the sword is the bonus. Stay put, I'll go get it." Naruto sat down at the nearby weapons rack and looked at the celestial bronze swords, spears, daggers and even shields until Mark returned holding a box wrapped in cloth. Mark smiled at Naruto's excitement and said, "I hope this fits your request. It wasn't easy getting the balance you wanted, nor the weight of the blade, not to mention how hard it was being able to make something this thin with those daggers you had me mix with the blade. This is a complete experiment to see if it actually is able to fit your recommendation of being able to channel that energy you use as well as cut down monsters. If anything, I'd say that it is possible to hit the monster and hurt it, but it will take much more to kill it." Naruto nodded at the logic and said, "Let me worry about that, you just focus on doing your thing." Mark smiled and said, "You got it, buddy." Naruto waved and walked out of the forge with his weapon still wrapped in the cloth propped on his shoulder. Naruto had been training in Kenjutsu before the war, but never had the chance to acquire a sword for himself. He would place himself as high chunin low jonin in terms of skill, but his speed brought him up to about mid jonin. Combined with his strength he was easily high jonin, but skill is the name of the game. So he spent the next week before the battle training and honing his skill in Kenjutsu. Naruto had just finished and was walking back to the barracks to be greeted by Hazel and Frank. It was easier to talk to Frank considering he was Japanese, but he noticed Frank's steal glances of jealousy towards him when Frank thought he wasn't looking. He wasn't sure what it was about, but if it was important Frank would tell him in time. Naruto had decided to grab a bite to eat before heading to bed to rest up for his fights against the best in the Roman Legion, which he was excited about. Shortly after drifting off he found himself in a familiar sewer system which represented his mindscape where Kurama and his siblings dwell. Naruto couldn't help but wonder why they brought him here, but Naruto walked down the familiar passage to the wide open plain of grass that the 9 Baijuo could be found lounging most of the time. but for some reason they were pacing nervously. Naruto walked up to Kurama, who looked down while Naruto asks, "What's up, Fuzzbot?" Not even Shukaku cracked a smile at the nickname, which meant that whatever is going on can't be good, so Naruto gained a serious look on his face while Kurama spoke. "Naruto, Gaia is stirring in the earth, we can feel her. She has come to us with an offer of freedom, but we knew that the extraction would kill you if we went through with it. But she is relentless, she doesn't seem to take no for an answer." Naruto looked down sadly and said, "I understand if you want out, I won't stop you." Kurama growled at him and said, "I thought you knew us better than that, kid. We chose you to be the next sage of 6 paths and we will give you everything we have. We will stand by you until the day your life ends, and even then, we will honor you for the great deed you have done for not just us, but all of the elemental nations. You changed us, we will not abandon you." Kurama smirked down at a smiling Naruto, who said through a slightly choked up voice, "Thanks, Fuzzbot. I never doubted you would betray me, I just thought you all wanted a little more freedom. I've been thinking, if you guys keep my body out of trouble, I'll let you use my body for your freedom whenever I have spare time." All the Baijuya smiled at him, but Shukaku screamed, "Oh, me first. I'm the youngest." Everyone laughed at Shukaku and Naruto quickly says, "Sure, I'll let you take the driver's seat after my battle tomorrow." They all smiled at him as Kurama spoke, "Get some sleep, kid, you may not need it but it would be best to show some restraint. Don't want to blow up the whole city." Everyone laughed again as Naruto smiled, and with a nod, Naruto vanished into his dreams of Konoha. Konoha had been in a slight state of panic when Naruto disappeared, but knew that when Naruto made up his mind about something, he would stand by it. They didn't fight him but just made him promise to stay safe. Naruto felt like a ghost as he watched his friends walk around Konoha trying to cheer up a depressed Hinata and Ino, who upon heard about him leaving wanted to just sit in her room and cry, but Sakura would drag her out and take her places along with Tenten and Hinata. It brought a smile to his face seeing their depression quickly forgotten and replaced with laughter. He turned to leave but stopped when he heard the familiar voice of Gaia. "Hello Naruto, this must be your home. I must say, I wouldn't mind living here, at least the people here respect nature, and the earth." Naruto turned to see Gaia's face carved next to Tsunade smiling at him with closed eyes before saying, "I would defend this place with my dying breath, if you meant to hurt me, my friends, or this world." Gaia laughed before saying, "I know you would, but it perplexes me on how after everything these people did to you, they hurt you, kicked you, beat you, dehumanized you, denied you your very existence, and still you protected them, even that pink-haired girl who you had a crush on, only for her to fall for the black-haired brat with a severe ignorance problem. He would put Narcissus to shame." Naruto smiled sadly at her and said, "I won't lie, it hurt so much to be alone. There were countless times I wanted to pack up and leave, there were times I cried and suffered, and yet after everything I do, I still suffer even after earning their respect." Gaia looks at him confused and asks, "So why didn't you? You must have known how hard it would have been to earn their trust than to leave and find somewhere new to call home." Naruto nodded and said, "I had planned to. I was going to make Chunin before I left though, but before I had the chance to act on my plan, Sasuke, the person I least expected to have done it, saved me. I know you can't understand what it's like to have your life saved, because you technically can't do, but I felt so grateful. I felt like I had finally made progress, finally found someone to call my Nakama, someone to call my friend." Gaia stayed silent before the world dissolved into darkness, signaling signs of waking up. Naruto sat up in bed and just sat there, thinking about his talks with Gaia, when Reyna walks in and asks, "Are you ready, Naruto?" Naruto nodded to her before she left him to get dressed. Dressing in his new normal attire of the clothes his father had made for him, he strapped the sheath of his sword to his back and started walking towards the arena outside the city. During the walk through the large crowd, women were constantly trying to talk to him, but men were laughing at him, telling him he wouldn't make it through the first couple minutes, let alone the first round. Naruto just kept smiling and saying, "Let's make a bet. If I win, I get my sword's weight in drachma. If you win, I'll pay your weight in drachma." The crowd gasped, but it was easy decision for the crowd since they were confident and said deal. Naruto made his way to the center of the field, hearing countless people booing him while the women shrieked and called him hot. Naruto just smirked while 3 of his opponents joined in on the laughs and couldn't help but think, "God, this is gonna be easier than I thought." Reyna walked to the railing of the praetor's box and announced, "Today we gather, to test the might of one claiming skill. Our forces' commanders have been challenged, as well as their trusted lieutenants. The best of the legion is gathered here today, to test this man's mettle. If he is deemed worthy, he shall join our ranks as not just soldiers of Rome, but as a new brother, to our growing family." The crowd cheered as Reyna signaled the first round to commence. The group of 3 charged forward only to be knocked unconscious as Naruto kicked and broke through the first man's helmet, sending him flying into his ally, knocking them both out. Naruto turns his attention to the third person, who is gobsmacked at how easily his commander fell. Naruto slowly drew his weapon from its sheath on his back, revealing a dark bronze blade with silver lining, forming a fox howling on both sides of the blade. Naruto entered his kenjutsu stance, and before the man had time to act, Naruto disappeared and reappeared behind the man, slowly resheathing his blade. After the blade clicked into the sheath, a dent appeared in the man's helm and he was out. The crowd was audibly shocked. No one had even seen him move, and yet there lying on the ground unconscious were 3 of the legion's best. When the crowd started mumbling, the next competitors stepped forward, looking incredibly nervous after seeing what Naruto could do. Naruto smiled and said, "Let's have a good match. I won't break any bones, at most you'll have a small concussion. I'll end this quick and easy." The group was now terrified at how sure Naruto was in his abilities. Naruto pulled out his sword and ran his finger along the back of the blade, whispering, "Uzumaki dance." Naruto disappeared, leaving a swirl of sand in his place. Countless swirls could be found around the arena and could only guess, that is where Naruto had been. Naruto reappeared in the center of the arena holding his sheath in his left hand, and his sword in his right, slowly sheathing his weapon. When it clicked, the men just fell over again unconscious. Naruto looked up to Reyna and said, "Send them all in. I wanna have some fun." The remaining competitors were shaking slightly from fear but felt they could overwhelm with numbers now. Poor guys. Naruto looked around the circle they made to trap him. Naruto flew through hand signs and shouted, "Wind release, hidden leaf barrage." A tornado surrounded Naruto and picked up the competitors and flung them away, hitting the walls of the arena. While most stayed down, some fought to stand up. Naruto smirked at those still standing and said, "Wow, not even a genin could stand back up after an attack like that. I'll show you a way we use swords from where I'm from." With that, Naruto pulled out his sword and whispered, "Leaf sword technique, wind blade fury." Naruto swings his sword and send a wave of wind at his opponent. Naruto cut the armor his opponent wore off and left him in only his greaves. The man immediately surrendered and walked off. Naruto summoned a couple shadow clones to take the men he injured to the arena infirmary while he was invited to talk to Reyna in private. Reyna turned to see Naruto walked in. She wanted to congratulate him but had to keep up appearances, so said, "Well done, your skill with a blade is impressive. As such, I would like to make you the new leader of the 5th cohort, due to its previous leader being incapacitated." The surprise on Naruto's face was easily visible, but he regained his composure and said, "It would be an honor." Reyna smiled and said, "Dismissed." Naruto gave a mock bow which caused Reyna to chuckle as he walked out the door. Upon walking through the streets towards the barracks to show his new subordinates his new rank, he was swamped by a crowd of people, mainly women blushing, a few guys with angry looks on their faces, which he didn't understand. The crowd started screaming, "Oh Naruto! You were amazing in the arena. Would you like to get some dinner? Over here Naruto. I want you in my bed." That last one made him pale and blush, which caused the crowd to squeal and say, "Look! He's blushing. He's so hot." By this point Naruto was freaking out, being unable to break free. He could swear he heard chuckles in his mind but shrugged it off for the moment. Before the women managed to strip him of his pants, which his shirt and cloak were off and ripped to shreds, causing the woman to shriek in pleasure as seeing Naruto's toned six-pack. A figure jumped into the fray and released a wave of killing intent, causing the crowd to disperse around Naruto. Naruto seen the familiar dark-skinned and said, "Thanks Hazel, don't know what I would have done without you." Hazel smirked down at him and said, "Oh don't worry, you can repay me over dinner." Naruto paled and heard his wallet scream. Naruto sighed and said, "Fine, but I have some news for everyone and I don't want to explain it twice." Hazel glared at him before releasing a huff, saying, "Fine, but after you're done, we have a date tonight." Naruto blushed deeply, causing Hazel to smirk, causing Naruto to say, "Do we have to call it a date? I mean, I've only been here a few weeks and I've already got most of the Roman female population after me for some reason, and you want a date with me? Not that I'm not flattered, but seriously, all this attention is overwhelming." Hazel shrugged and said, "Let's go through the list of reasons everyone is after you. 1. You single-handedly took out the best our legion had to offer, with ease I might add. 2. You've got abs that could make Venice blush. 3. You're handsome to boot. 4. You're a laughing riot. The only thing wrong with you right now is you're an idiot." Naruto scowled at that and said, "My friends say I'm a strategic genius in the heat of battle." Hazel pointed at him and said, "That's my point. No one can come as close to a jack of all trades like you, but sadly, brains is the only thing you lack, unless you're only carrying a 5-inch, but we'll solve that mystery later." Naruto blushed a deep red and actually contemplated placing security seals he learned from Jiraiya around his bed. Hazel motioned for Naruto to follow her, which he did so hesitantly. Hazel and him made their way through the doors of the 5th cohort barracks and was welcomed by a swarm of people who beamed at his victory. Naruto held up his hand to silence any questions before saying, "Reyna has prompted me to captain." Shoulders slumped all around but picked up when they seen him smirk. Naruto pointed a thumb at himself and said, "Aren't you guys gonna properly welcome your new captain home?" Some men had angry glares at him, while others just smiled, and then there was the females who pounced him and brought him to the floor. So Naruto and the rest of the cohort partied late into the night until Naruto fell asleep. Most of the girls wanted to have a little fun with Naruto, but the guys saved him by dragging him into the men's dorm and barring the door. The men then placed Naruto in his new private bedroom. Hope you all enjoyed, thanks for watching.